Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And things are getting rather spicy heading into the World Championship as Los Angeles Thieves release a video in which they discuss the most overrated team in the CDL. Drazah says pretty much without hesitation it is OpTic Texas, and Kenny doubles down later on in the day. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. First of all, another classic piece of Call of Duty Vanguard here from the rotation on Bacage, where apparently if you hit the kind of bunny hop in the right way off this wall, you can just glitch straight through this doorway. Not really sure this is necessary or like applicable in a real game, and if it's possible to actually glitch through this wall, there might be a very specific circumstance in which you could actually abuse this to your advantage. If someone's upstairs and you can somehow glitch through it, they don't know you're coming down low. I don't really know, but I mean, look, it's Vanguard stuff. I wonder what other glitches we're going to see at Champs, right? Because it wasn't long ago at Major 4, I guess, in the Grand Finals where they experienced the kind of ladder glitch Envoy had on this very map in Search and Destroy up against the subliners. This just to mention on New York actually themselves, because I wonder if this is a bit of a negative for New York going into this event, because I've been kind of confident that they should be able to keep grinding and maybe New York can put up a decent result here at Champs and maybe go on further than they did before. But most teams, of course, right now are going to play together in the same facilities. Portlix has gone back to California, not exactly sure why, but he's gone back to Cali for a couple of weeks before Champs. I guess Champs is out there, right? So he gets to just stay there and go to LA and doesn't need to fly back. But I'm pretty sure the rest of New York are based over in Texas, so they're not playing with Paul in the actual facility right now, which might be affecting their practice quality to some degree, especially because he goes on to say this yesterday, 80 ping every scrim has got me going insane. So he was kind of saying, actually, I mean, this tweet when he says, can't believe I used to play on this every day, because he moved out of Texas to play with the New York guys, but now he's back in Cali playing every scrim on a difficult ping environment. So if that's taken a toll on his kind of, mental really, when he's getting a bit checked out, getting joked every map, and then he's not there with the team to, watch VOD together and discuss things in person. So maybe it's affecting their practice quality to some degree. Just something I thought I would mention because I saw it. This also from Benjay Naseem. This is rather interesting actually. Now, look, I don't think there's any world really in which OpTic make a change for next season. They know that the whole Illy dynamic this season didn't really help them at all. He's now back. Shotzi's there. They're probably going to keep the same team for next year. The only way they don't is if Scump retires, and I can't really imagine that being the case because, look, they've just done Call of Duty Vanguard. Next year's game is surely going to be better. You've at least got to give it one go for one season, I would imagine, but we'll see what Scump decides to do. That's the only world I really think this team changes. But apparently, Shotzi and Illy's contracts are actually unclear, as Ben describes here, that apparently the website lists them as signed in December 2021, but I have been informed by at least two sources around the league that they do not have a team option for next season, so they will have to apparently re-sign contracts. So the idea would be if they signed in December last year, OpTic could just extend them, but I guess probably what happened here is that maybe they did one season on Dallas, and then either didn't extend the contract and maybe signed new contracts, maybe for more money, I don't know, going into Cold War, and then those contracts were then taken over by OpTic going into this title, so maybe they're still on the 1+1 from the start of the Cold War season, which would mean they've technically got to re-sign. So Ben updates the spreadsheet to say that it's actually unclear what the team option is for Shotzi and Illy, whether the team can force them to extend or whether they will technically be free agents, right? Of course, like there's no world in which Shotzi and Illy are going to walk away from OpTic, but they might technically be free agents at the end of this season with their contracts coming to a close, where they could possibly do that if, FaZe drops someone and they say, look, Illy, come and play for FaZe. But obviously that's not going to happen regardless. Wanted to touch on the MVP debate as well, because it was being talked about once again last night. A few people were kind of throwing their hat in the ring for a discussion. This is almost 40,000 votes as well. Season MVP. We talked about this a few days ago. Who should it be? People seem to be going like so crazy over this, right? Everyone's like throwing their opinion in. It's like life or death out there when you see some of these Twitter threads and discussions and Reddit threads on like who the MVP should be. People are coming at each other's necks over what is really a not particularly big deal, to be honest. It's not like, who's going to be the world champion this season. But anyway, this season MVP should be announced during the World Championship weekends. So they should do one based on the season so far, and there'll be a separate World Championship MVP. Yes, Cellium hasn't won an event. He didn't win the MVP like Dashi did back at the first event of the season, but I think on the whole, Cellium's been a more valuable player to that team and to the league in general, and has the better placings and consistency. But I do think it's a very close debate. I don't think it's clear-cut one way or another. I would maybe slightly favour Cellium. I think that probably the analyst or whoever they have voting for it might favour Cellium as well, but there's a very credible case for Dash Yulsa, and if you give it to the fan vote, that's only going to go one way. So definitely, I think it's a very tough debate, I think, this season, but it's certainly going to be one of these two guys when they decide in, well, probably very shortly indeed. Now, Crimsix actually gives his thoughts on this, right? This is a pretty funny post that was appearing here on the Reddit, but Crim actually replied to this one saying, I'm pressing the right button 100%, which is Crim has won more than Scub, so he's the GOAT, and then he says, Cell also deserves it, but honestly, we should should wait after champs, right? So Crim, there is 2 MVPs. At least to my understanding, there will be a regular season MVP and then a championship weekend MVP, like Crimsix actually won back in Modern Warfare, even though Shotzzy won the regular season MVP, is my understanding. So yeah, Crimsix reckons he would give it to Cell, but we'll see what they decide to do. Let's talk about OpTic Texas then. Thought this kind of funny from Arcitys actually that Preston, his twin brother Prestinni, who is playing at the Challengers World Championship on Clayster's team, left me to scrim OpTic and didn't even finish our scrim. So apparently they were scrimming FaZe up against Prestinni's team, Clayster's team, to get some practice in, and then they went to go and scrim OpTic, and then he just texted me saying #GreenWall. Must say this does bode rather well for Clayster's team in general, just because, like, look, Clayster's team here, they're going into the Challengers World Championship, getting practice every day against FaZe, OpTic, these top teams. Like, that does bode rather well for that squad of Venom, Clayster, Fellow, and Prestinni is the team of 4, I believe, that won the LCQ, and maybe can put up a decent fight at the Challengers Championship as well, going alongside the main one in just less than a week's time. Let's talk Los Angeles Thieves, right? Because going into this event, they might not really want to build up too much bad karma, but that might be exactly what they've done. If we get a Thieves versus OpTic match as a result of this one, or after what we've seen at the last 24 hours, it will be rather spicy indeed. So Thieves come out, I mean, there's been some great content really coming around the league lately, but Thieves come out with this video last night. It's like a plead the fifth type video idea where they ask a question and they can either answer it and get a point, or if they don't answer it, they don't get any points, effectively. The questions are pretty good. One of the questions, which is probably the spiciest of the lot, of course, was which was the most overrated team in the CDL. First of all, I did see this from Octane, actually. He kind of listed his top 5 players of all time. I think he kind of was going to put Karma 3rd here, but then he thought Clayster first, and then he thought, okay, well, Karma, I guess I'll have to put him 4th and Form or 5th. I think, honestly, these are undisputed the top 5 players in some order or another. For me, I'd probably swap Karma and Clayster around, but everything else I think is probably about right. But I'll share this clip right here where Drazah gets asked, okay, well, who's the most overrated team in the league? And Kenny actually went on to say afterwards that, like, I mean, look, everyone kind of knows and has someone in their head immediately as soon as this question is raised. Drazah knew who it was. He comes out with the OpTic answer, right, which might well be expected. And then, of course, Kenny actually later in the day on the Stay Attached podcast goes on to effectively say, well, look, Drazah might have had a point there. I'm not saying they're overrated or underrated, but I'm just saying that people said they were more favoured in these events than they could have been, effectively backing up his teammate on this one.
Which CDL team is the most overrated?
Yeah. This is the title. Yeah, this is the title for the video. So make sure you get
Drazah thinks.
Yeah, exactly.
Who came to mind first? Go ahead. Don't try to overthink it. Who came to mind first? So you take it a little too long.
You have to explain yourself.
We know you know. That's what I'm saying. At that point, it's plead the fifth. You thinking a little too hard. You gotta answer in your head.
Yo, he was looking at you like, Ken, should I say it?
Bro,
who? Go ahead.
It's OpTic.
Cut! Can't save yourself. It's over.
Dear OpTic fans, GreenWall, I do not affiliate with Drazah's opinion.
Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, Drazah is a madman for his answer. OpTic Gaming is the most overrated team in the CDL.
Wait, Ken's admitted. I know you got an answer.
Bro, because there's, listen, when a question like that pops, you automatically pop an answer in your head instantly.
OpTic fans, if you're watching, I do not co-sign anything that he's saying.
Damn, holy
The mob boss, Big Tommy, he said, "Is OpTic overrated?" Question mark. I think your teammate was Zach. Zach said they're a little overrated, but let's see what you got to say, Ken.
I mean, people were calling them the best team in the game. Even Ender said at the event, and then listen, that's all I got to say. They were not the best team at the event. So
Okay.
I would say they think they're the best team in the game, and I think people see them as the best team in the game. I think after the major, I consider us the best team in the game right now.
Yeah.
So if you want to, you take that how you want to take that. Call that overrated or don't call it overrated. I think they're not the best team in the game right now.
So I think in general, OpTic are always going to be on that side of things just because OpTic have the most fans, right? That's just how it is. You look at sometimes the betting odds and stuff for the bookies for the event, and OpTic are always generally going to be slightly more favoured than maybe they should be just because they've got more fans that are going to support them, and therefore that's the way things go, right? So I think in terms of overrated discussions, the teams with the most fans are always kind of going to be a bit more overrated because, you know, if OpTic have 50% of the fan base, then their fans are probably going to rate them maybe slightly higher than they actually should be. Therefore, they're going to be naturally overrated. So I feel like there's nothing nothing you can really do about that. So maybe Drazah has a fair point here. Then again, the idea that they were going into, not exactly sure when they recorded this, right, but I'm guessing Kenny's talking about the most recent event, really, Major 4, saying that, okay, people said they were coming in as favourites. Not really sure that was the case at all, because, I mean, they were 1 in 4, right, in the Major 4 qualifier, so they were coming in, honestly, probably fairly rated going into Major 4. Like, I think most people said going into Major 4, yeah, okay, OpTic weren't looking good in the qualifiers. They were probably a team that was going to get top 6, maybe top 4 if they had a good run. That's exactly what they did. I think going into Major 3, though, you certainly could argue this, because they came in here 4 in 1, still off a great run, even with ProLoot in the team, went into Major 3 with an awful lot of expectation and being rated very highly at the time, and then fell flat and came top 6, right? So I think it's an interesting discussion, really. I think Kenny maybe has a point. I think Drazah maybe has a point to a degree, but at the same time, it's not like OpTic are, especially right now, I don't think they're incredibly overrated, really. I think they played pretty well at Major 4. They came in there as a team that people expected to get from the losers bracket top 6, maybe top 4. That's exactly what they delivered. So I feel like as of late, they haven't been overrated, but I do feel like maybe, early this season, around Major 3 time, that could certainly be argued, right? But earlier this season, right, I mean, they were playing like the best team in the game for a time. There's no doubt about it. During Major 1, the Major 1 qualifiers, the final 3 matches there, Major 1 itself, Major 2 qualifiers, they won everything. I don't think they were overrated during that period, because everyone said, well, apart from Makes, that they were the best team in the game, and they were playing like it, right? And they were beating FaZe every time they played them at the time. Of course, after you hit those highs, it can be difficult for the rating to come down to an appropriate level when the team obviously had the Illy situation and then kind of fell off as a result. The controller's not been looking so good. I think right now they're probably reasonably rated going into the World Championship. The question is there, right? Thieves, they want to go back to back. I think even Octane said, don't release that video that we just looked at before Champs, because they didn't really want the bad karma that could potentially come through and accrue as a result of something like this. So I do hope, I would love to see it, if we can somehow get a Thieves versus OpTic matchup, which is honestly not particularly unlikely, just because if OpTic beat Toronto, then I believe Thieves play Boston on the same side of the bracket. So like OpTic will play Thieves winners round 2 if they both win their winners round 1 games, which is plausible, right? If OpTic beat Toronto, Thieves beat Boston, we will get this matchup, right? Which would be absolutely fantastic, because, I mean, look, if they're saying that OpTic are overrated, then OpTic come in, they're going to be going with the fire to try and take them down, so it definitely will elevate the levels of an important series like that even more than it already is, if this is the case, right? So yeah, definitely tweet your thoughts and all that stuff in the comment section below, and that's the thing, right? They do play Toronto in the very first round. It's going to be a tough time for OpTic, I think, here, because generally, when they played Toronto the last couple of seasons, and especially last season, right, it was always a Game 5 loss for OpTic, pretty much always. This time around, this season, they've lost 1 Game 5 to Toronto. They won a Game 5 round 11 against Toronto at Major 4, and I think they 3-0'd Toronto earlier this season when OpTic were on top of the world. Far from an easy game, and Kenny also went on to, say, right, that he thinks they're the best team in the game, Los Angeles Thieves, right? They are the team to beat at the present time. Can anyone take them down? I think that people are probably saying it's between Thieves and FaZe, who is the favourites for this event, but after that, it's very open, right? I mean, you've got New York there or thereabouts, you've got OpTic there. Obviously, you can see right here, the CDL are tallying up the rings for a load of these teams. Seattle might be in with the shout as well. They play London round 1, and if they beat London, then they play potentially FaZe round 2 or whatever, right? And Seattle are a pretty good matchup against FaZe generally so far this season, kind of a team that was built to be able to take down FaZe. So honestly, I do think going into the World Championship, it's probably the most open that it's ever felt. The last couple of years, it's really felt like, okay, either Dallas or Atlanta, maybe Chicago Huntsmen were probably going to win back in Modern Warfare. Last season, it was going to be a massive surprise if anyone but FaZe won, but this season, it feels like it's super open, right? And Kenny reckons that, the kind of bad karma isn't going to come back to bite them, and potentially Thieves are still going to be the favourites and the best team, but I think there's a good, 6 teams, 5-6 teams that can actually win this event. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button and tell us YouTube gods. That's a good video. That was like you should see it as well. And I'm growing the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.